The world is changing faster than ever before. In the past 10 years, there has been an exponential technological evolution, the kind of technology that has revolutionized the world of work as we know it.
The Lawyers Hub was founded on the principle that law needs to interact more with technology, and that greatly affects tech policy as well as access to justice. So the Lawyers Hub exists as a confluence between law and technology, working on tech policy, on emerging technologies, as well as increasing and upskilling the knowledge of lawyers in the area of technology. We support tech startups as well to ensure that the tech ecosystem also engages in policy, but as well understand issues around data protection, issues that also concern their structure, as well as intellectual property.
If you look at the evolution of technology, it's been relegated as an alternative in most systems. But the realization that 21st century has brought us into is that technology has to be an integral part of our day-to-day systems. And if you look at some critical technology areas like artificial intelligence, blockchain, nanotechnology, biotechnology, then it gives us a strong indication that if we do not start having discussions on the use of these technology areas, as far as law is concerned, then we may be in some kind of trouble. So lawyers are leading the debate on the use of these technologies, especially in Africa.
Over the years, the Lawyers Hub has supported the innovation ecosystem, convened events such as the Africa Law Tech Festival and the Global Legal Hackathon. The Lawyers Hub has also supported government innovations within the justice sector, as well as trained government institutions and more than 10,000 lawyers across Africa on emerging tech policy.
Our dream at the Lawyers Hub is to have open access to law. We envision a continent where there is access to justice through leveraging technology and with a crowd of enlightened lawyers. We see a continent that also protects its own through better tech policies, that emerging technologies, through its regulation, will offer better value and consumer protection for the people within Kenya and within the African continent. We envision that we will convene policy makers, regulators, as well as lawyers who are more enlightened on emerging technologies and with better digital skills. And we invite you to be a part of this great vision for Kenya and for Africa.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us from. My name is Linda Bonyo, and we're happy that today you could join us for this important conversation on the UN dialogue on artificial intelligence. So I'd want to run through the presentation really quickly, and then I will invite my panelists, and I understand the time constraints. Today we are going to be joined by Vukosi Marivate, who's a member of the scientific panel of the UN, also Dr. Makta Sek, who represents the UN Economic Commission for Africa, as well as Dr. Mehdi, who is at the Office of Digital and Emerging Technologies at the United Nations. They coordinate everything. So I'd want to set a basis for this conversation, because as lawyers and technologists, we believe that we need to have a good foundation that we could, argue from. So I'm just going to ask if the media team is able to share the presentation. If they're not, I will do it on my end. So we want to run you through the slides on the call by the United Nations on the global dialogue on artificial intelligence. So they're asking for input. And we felt that it's not a good idea to give you our own input. The input needs to come from you, who's working on these issues every day and being affected within the African continent. And so the initial deadline was 30th of May, of April, but they have pushed it to 7th of May. So we have a few days to make a difference and to ensure that we can actually submit. So I'm going to just talk about the basis of where this is coming from, the UN architecture for global digital AI cooperation. So I'm going to take you through a timeline on what has happened at the United Nations level to get us to this point where there's a call for input on the global dialogue. So this year, we first have the Global Dialogue consultation that is beginning, and that's going to end on 7th of May. In July, there's going to be a Geneva session. That's the inaugural dialogue on artificial intelligence. And in 2027, this will happen in Geneva. Then in 2027, there's going to be another one that will actually review the outputs of the panel and the dialogue. That will happen in New York in 2027. So this timeline really explains the journey that has happened since this began. So the first one, in 2019, right before COVID, there was a high-level panel that was appointed by the Secretary General, and they diagnosed the problem. So they came up with a report, and this report is what then informed the roadmap on digital cooperation that was then launched in 2020. And this sort of had recommendations, and it had 8 thematic action areas under the Tech Envoy. And so there was a process that happened between 2020 and 2024, which was a consultative process on the Global Digital Compact, emanating from that particular roadmap. I was part of that process. I got an invitation in Nairobi when they came for the consultations. I made a presentation and then ended up doing the presentations and the consultations with them in India, in New York, and I think also in South Africa. So now in 2024, we had the first negotiated UN framework, which is the Global Digital Compact. So that is the basis of each conversations that we are having. And then in 2025, they operationalized this Global Digital Compact by actually having a secretariat that then now is a permanent home for this Global Digital Compact. Within the Global Digital Compact, the recommendation was for a scientific panel. This is a standing global scientific panel on artificial intelligence. It has 40 members, and there were 2,600 applicants who applied for this. One of them is with us here, who was successful. And then we had the global dialogue, which is now being planned in July and then next year in New York, as I've mentioned, all emanating from the Global Digital Compact. It's an annex that you should read. So the Global Digital Compact, it sort of converts all these 6 years into 5 pillars. One is to close the digital divide, and we know what that means for the African continent. It expands this digital economic inclusion, but also looks at how we protect human rights online, because then human rights was evolving, and we've seen this with what happened from COVID. And then also how to govern data responsibly, but also govern AI for humanity. So they ideally released a report last year on governing AI for humanity. So this objective 5 within the Global Digital Compact talks about a political sort of venue. So you have this global dialogue on AI governance. So that's what we're going to have, the independent scientific panel on AI. So this is the panel that Professor Vukosi represents, and the coordination engine, which is ODET, the Office for Digital and Emerging Technologies. So we'd also want to mention that WISIS is a process that ideally would be able to help review this particular process. And with us is Dr. Makta, who's the focal point for WISIS in Africa. So the scientific panel will talk about it, in detail. But it's important to note that it's scientific, it's not political. So they build evidence. So it's separate from, policy and stuff, but they build evidence to let us know what's going on. It's not a one-off, it's ongoing with annual assessments. They need to give us early warning by design, in terms of, warning what next with artificial intelligence. They're independent by construction. So you remember you serve in a personal capacity, but also inclusivity is built in. So we have Global South and most of Africa represented. So for us, we want to to shape the dialogue. We want to put in our input. We do this until 7th May, but we also want to engage the scientific panel because they're going to have a report. Then we want to mobilize you to be in Geneva. Anyone, whether you're in academics or technical, to be in Geneva and be part of the July conversations. We also hope that we can shape the report around voluntary financing options. And we need to hear more about this one. The Digital Compact proposed a global fund on artificial intelligence. So we'd like to hear how that is going. And also to anchor our domestic regulations. For the past 4 or 5 weeks, we've discussed national AI strategies for, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Ghana, but also the now withdrawn South African national policy. So we want to see how to domesticate this until 2030, according to the Digital Compact. So I've talked about this, and also the final thing is on Q4 of positioning and building coalitions and submitting this in New York. So I'd like us to talk about the questions that are being asked and within the dialogue. And Lawyers Hub is really keen on making sure that we get our voices heard at the dialogue. And I'd like to just lay the basis on what the consultation is asking as we invite our speakers. So the question that is being asked are 11 questions. You can do this on your own. You can sign up to what Lawyers Hub is submitting, but we'd like for us to center the discussions on this. One is on your organization, your stakeholder, what region you're coming from, your website, your job title. So that's what you will need. But then what are the outcomes that will make the first global dialogue a success? That's the first question. And what are the thematic areas that reflect your priorities for urgent action and active engagement? I want to say that that's an important question because the things we struggle with in Africa, in Dar, in Nairobi, they're very different from what the West struggles with. So you'll sort of will explain what is different. If you have a global dialogue, is it meaningful? Will we be heard? Are we different, or people are discussing tomorrow's problems when we have today's problems? Also, are there cross-cutting or emerging issues not captured by the themes? So we'll share some of the themes that have been asked, but also the governance gaps that we see. And what you see as the role of this dialogue in advancing international cooperation on AI governance. Please note that a lot of the work that is being done with the scientific panel and this dialogue excludes military issues. So anything on military is excluded for discussion on the UN. That also is an issue to be discussed. So I would like to, invite our panelists to talk about what are these good practices, for example, that they see, but also what do you see that will be the best engagement format at the global dialogue? Will you be there? What are you thinking? Do you feel that even showing up is going to be, pose an opportunity for us to, influence this particular process? So I'd like to stop sharing my screen and, open up the floor. I'm really grateful for the conversation. And this is an important but open conversation. I've laid the basis on the process, and I hope that you will be there in Geneva, but also in New York. I attended the first UN General Assembly just as a curious person, the side events, and it was an amazing process to know how laws are made at the global level. But then at the second point, I got to really understand, that it's possible to get into the ecosystem and begin to influence policies. And so I'd want to first begin with Professor Vukosi Marivate. Forgive me if I mispronounce it. I've mispronounced it for 4 years. So please, could you introduce yourself and just let us know where the scientific panel is at, what's happening, and what's really in your heart to share with Africa I don't know whether you're still joining us from Spain, but please, the floor is yours. You have another maybe 7 minutes to let us know what's up.
Sure. Hello, everybody. And I just want to be
Can you hear him well?
I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you for this invitation. And it's great to be here. Sorry, my camera's up here, and I think your software is thing. Let me change this so that I don't want to see myself. Sorry, weirdly, you have this weird thing. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Vukosi. I'm a director of the African Institute for Data Science and AI based at University of Pretoria in South Africa. But wear many hats, one being on the scientific panel, independent scientific panel. So I think what I want to highlight is that I'm here in my personal capacity. I do not represent the panel, nor do I represent also the different organizations that I might be connected with. It's me sitting with my experiences, trying to provide knowledge into the process of the scientific panel, and then at the same time learning from all the different diverse voices. Remember, there's 40 of us assembled, and it's very interesting, right? Because we have to bring in all these different views. And as such, even being here, yes, there's things I cannot talk about that are going on. We're busy working with our report at the moment. But I think from Linda's opening remarks, I think what's important is having voices in the room, right? And not maybe a voice, because Africa also as itself is 55 countries. So sitting and saying, here's an African voice doesn't make any sense in some ways, because then in some other jurisdictions, you talk about, here's what this country believes. So it's been very, what is it, encouraging to see all of you meeting here. It's great to be in this, to just join, even though it's briefly. And maybe the one part is I can highlight a few things. So for many here, you might be in a different part of the ecosystem than I am. So I'm a professor of computer science. I'm based at a university in South Africa. I'm one of the co-founders of the Deep Learning Indaba, which is the largest research kind of gathering and conference on the African continent for AI, and then also co-founded Masakani Research Foundation, which then has worked on looking at African languages and natural language processing and linguistics in these spaces. And yes, a lot of it looks technical, but to really make an impact, you have to think about the socio-technical, you have to think about all these other pieces. And that's why we, people like myself interact a lot across these different areas. But it's worth noting that if you're looking for technical, more technical communities, they are there, whether it's through Deep Learning Indaba, Data Science Africa. And I really always encourage you to do that. So this year, I think Data Science Africa is in Uganda, and then Deep Learning Indaba is in Lagos later in the year. Now, the reason why I say that is that when we were in India, in Delhi, for the AI Impact Summit, the thing that you keep on seeing is just that part of okay, thinking about the global south or global majority, it almost sometimes feels you're always in the side rooms and not in the main stages. And what we want is people to also be able to encourage and reinforce our local ecosystems, because ultimately, when you do go to, whether it's Geneva or it's New York, you want to be at a position where you have that support. Right, that the things that you're saying, that there's actually a lot of other people who will then come in and say, hey, yes, this is what we're doing. I do not like maybe the view a lot of the times that you see of tabula rasa. We don't know, Africans didn't know about this. That is completely wrong. That is completely wrong. Remembering that on one, with ODET, we had an AI white paper back in 2021, 2022. And then, yes, in 2023, we had the AI policy for the continent through the African Union, through the African Union Commission coming out. And then before that, sure, you have Malabo Convention. You have, I think, was it not the security? Sorry, I'm a lurker here. I'm not the thing, but I know these things of learning all of these pieces. Those were there. And on one side, on the people who might be computing and math, they have to learn about these things and understand where they sit in their practice. And in the same way, understanding what happened maybe generative AI is important for people who might be coming from law, in terms of why then you might think about the Malabo Convention, why you might think about these digital safety and security white papers, because they're important in practice on both sides. I do not have a knowledge of what's going to happen at the dialogue. Ultimately, I think I'll be mostly guided by you when it comes to this, and I'm happy to answer one or two questions, Linda, or from the audience as well. And then also for the AI for Good Summit, also noting that obviously there's going to be next year's Impact Summit. I think it's also going to be in Geneva. And how do we prepare for that? And I also do expect that there will be another global summit on AI in Africa sometime in the first half of next year. So all of these are meeting spaces that we can have a lot of sway on, and we just need to make sure we're there. We have our our information and the support of our ecosystem.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate every word you've spoken. I also would like to add in that the entire week there's things happening in Geneva. I lost track of the chat because there's too many messages there, but I saw somebody pop up and say they're in Geneva and they are working on AI. I want to quickly mention that, Professor Fukosi, as you continue to engage with the panel, it's important to highlight a few things we are seeing with the national AI strategies. Four things that I think maybe have not gone into the strategy, which have not gone into the discussions and the uniqueness of Africa. The first thing is on diaspora. A lot of the national AI strategies are asking Africans abroad to come back and help them build. From Zimbabwe saying, come back home and build, to Ghana looking at incentives for people in diaspora, as well as South Africa. So I would want to say that that is one unique thing about Africa, because we've had brain drain of people going out of the continent. How does that translate? But also to engage, I've seen somebody saying that they're in Belgium, from Mechelen. A lot of Africans are around the world. I want to urge the diaspora, let us connect and see what we could be able to do in these places, because you already have visas, you already are in these countries. I see Chant Gra, who's in neighboring France and will attend the session in Geneva. That will be really, really amazing. The second thing is on tech workers. Some people joined in here. Last week we had a session with the tech workers in Kenya. They are affected by companies, by the big tech companies in AI. Meta canceled its contract with Summersource for people who are actually working on Ray Meta glasses. And now there are 1,000 people in Kenya are jobless. So we need to talk about tech worker rights, because that's not something that a lot of people are being affected by, because they are third parties and Africa doesn't have very strong worker protection laws. The third thing is on data sets, which you have actually, mentioned, Professor. That is really, really great. And the fourth is on Ubuntu and Ujamaa. We are seeing that most of these cultural aspects of artificial intelligence coming out of Africa really wants to be grounded on Ubuntu, on community, on Ujamaa from, Tanzania. So really, I think we need to get to the global stage in terms of these particular conversations. If you put a question in the chat, I'm sorry, I'm not able to, to answer them, to look at them, put it on the Q&A, and I'll be able to see them as the chat is overwhelming. Because in 1 minute, any kind of response, maybe anything that you've read, and
Yes.
then we can move.
And thanks for that. And the chat has been also amazing. So many different people in this space. I think it is worthwhile in these areas. I think it is to bring ourselves as we are, as opposed to contorting ourselves to what we think people want us to look like. So the thing, Linda, that you highlighted are important, right? Whether I think at the Indaba, there was this discussion about brain drain, and somebody said like, no, that's not brain drain, that's also opportunity, right? Because it's a drain if you don't have a plan of what does a diaspora mean for you as a country. So it's important to then have that plan to say, how do you engage, and then how do you take advantage in some ways of that you have a very much a mobile part of your population, and it's important for us to do that. And I think we can do that, explore these. And I'm very thankful also myself. This year is my sabbatical year, so I've been moving around the world, always being able to find Africans who are willing to then welcome you home, whichever country you are. On those spaces. How then do we use that the same way in terms of being able to bring in all these connections, experiences on what AI really would be? On one side is that even me starting the Indaba, it's after coming back, right? After you have been away, and then you say, okay, hey, here's an opportunity. We can come together as a continent and not worry about only individual organizations or academic institutions, because it's not going to scale in the way that we want. Yeah. How then do you build something for the continent? The next one, in terms of Ujamaa, Ubuntu, it's a very important kind of thing. We, unfortunately, at the moment, we have to rework the South African AI policy. But one of the things I think at the end of it was this conversation about Ubuntu AI, right? And it's worth really continuing with that, or say, what ultimately, we shouldn't be asking ourselves, like, again, how do we contort, and what are these goals we should actually be going for? It really should be about what do we see as the goals we should be having when it comes to AI development and its connected thing. AI is not the
Excellent.
thing. There will be other technologies, but what is it that we're choosing as a direction, as a continent, as countries, as regions, to say this is what we're aiming for in these areas? And this is also a
Excellent.
message
I have to
not
cut
just
you
for the
short though.
scientific panel, Linda.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I also sit on the Africa AI Council by Smart Africa and the AU, and that's also that's more local in these areas. So it's worth really pushing for our view. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Professor Vukosi. We're running out of time. I don't know how I'm going to balance this, but Mehdi is at the airport and Maktar is my dear, dear friend. And he's been my boss. So I'm going to bring both Mehdi and Maktar on the floor because they represent the United Nations and they have been doing amazing work in this sector. So I don't know if I had mentioned earlier that you forgive us for the technical hitches today, because the gods of presentations are not too happy, but we will do it. So Dr. Maktai, are you here? Mehdi, are you here? If you could also join me, I'd really appreciate. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. I'm just trying to find a calm place at the airport.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you joining us today, Mehdi. And we'd like to hear, you see there's excitement in the room. People want to show up in Geneva and, they want to engage. How is ODET, making this possible? And are there pathways for us to actually make a difference?
I think it's essential. And then I'm really excited and happy to see the willingness of African communities working around AI to join this kind of global dialogue. It's a very timely and good opportunity now to start shaping the vision, start sharing also the direction that we would like to build into the global AI governance direction. Just to position the global dialogue from a perspective of the UN, this is a General Assembly event and meeting organized in Geneva between United Nations Office for Digital and Emerging Technology, the ITU, and the UNESCO. This is a joint effort there and led by member states. So we have co-chairs on the global dialogue, and these co-chairs are managing the modalities of participation and then the submission of statements. Just to let you know, there's an extension of the call for proposals, so call for statements, that was extended to the 7th of May, where any association, organization, stakeholder, civil organization, or private sectors can submit a statement to the global dialogue to be considered during the dialogue. The event itself will happen in Geneva from 6th and 7th of July. For now, we know that all member states have been invited through their head of states or prime minister, probably head of states more than prime minister. And there is a couple of activities like the one you are organizing happening around the world, in particular to group statements and then to hear from different stakeholders and then to build a strong statement that could collectively be submitted to the global dialogue. For African stakeholders, I think it's essential to be present. There is a very strong push from major African member states towards the AI governance to include the African voice, but also when it comes to the capacity building efforts, when it comes to the shared infrastructure, and also on terms of policy and recommendation to take into considerations the different aspects and linguistic aspects, contextual aspects we have in Africa that we don't have in other continents. And for now, we have seen not many, but multiple statements and multiple efforts. I was in Addis, hosted by Maktar last week already, where there's also there was a consultation, but with the co-chairs of the dialogue. But Maktar will bring better his vision on that. I think it's essential to have the civil organization coming in Geneva it's essential to have all African private sector also coming to Geneva, highly represented, in order to bring more voices and also to stress the importance of the AI governance for our continent at this time. How this will happen, we do not have a clarity on the modalities of participation for now. We are in the process of finalizing the list of member states' participation and giving the logistics issues that we may face in Geneva. We are looking into having some side events, but also having some sessions happening within the dialogue. We have 2 days, 4 sessions, each of these sessions with a specific focus. One of them is on capacity building, where I encourage all African member states and civil societies to strongly participate and to advocate for a stronger capacity building efforts that should be led by the UN. As soon as we get more information regarding the modalities of participation, that will be shared with all of those who submitted already a proposal, but also that will be shared on the websites of the dialogue. I hope that I've answered to your question.
Excellent. Thank you so much. There's several questions. One, is there a travel grant? And 2, there's a question on children, the impact of AI in child protection in Africa. Athena Morgan asked that. And Susan Otieno says, from what you're saying, we need to move as a block. So this brings in harmonization and things like implementation mechanisms for AFCFTA. And how to see how we also build upon regional cooperation. Isaac Boateng says, it will be ideal for the Lawyers Hub, Prof, and all ecosystem players to work together with ATU and develop a regional framework for AI development and governance to guide this discussion. So what would you say, Mehdi? And I hope you don't miss your flight. Yes.
No, that's fine. I still have time.
Yeah.
So for the funding opportunities, we are in the process of fundraising. Meaning this is done jointly with ITU and UNESCO. So those who are already working with ITU, probably they can already submit their question or request directly to them. There will be, meaning there is a strong effort into bringing all the voices around the table and ensuring that the financial capability is not a limit to get these voices around the table. So for now, this is ongoing efforts, and probably at the moment that the fundraising reach the goal, there will be a call for participation with submissions of files, and then there will be a transparent selection process for those who get funded into the process. On terms of coming all together, I think this is very essential and much important, rather than seeing multiple statements by different African member states or African organizations. It's essential to bring one strong statement where all the member states are endorsing, or major member states are endorsing that, and then to commit to one vision. And this is something that is much needed to get this coordination of the one vision. If we care about the continent, we should not leave no one behind in the continent. And we know about the disparities on African continent when it comes to the AI development, maturity in terms of infrastructure. So within our statement, we should also not only looking for the UN, I think, support and expertise, but also looking into how we will split that expertise and support across the continent between the different member states in equitable manner, so that there is a fairness in terms of the development of the AI, and the continent is caring about its own members. That's something that should, meaning as a Tunisian, I think that's something that I would love to see in a common statement coming from the African, the continental. So finally, about the work with ITU, we encourage all member states to work with the different technical UN organizations. ITU, UNESCO, UNDP are doing great work. We are working on building much a higher level of blueprint for national AI strategy development that we are also deploying soon into pilot countries in Africa. So there is a lot of initiative coming together. That the point is that these initiatives should not be replicating existing works. We should be sure that we are touching the point, meaning we need to be clear about the reality of the strategy we would like to build, right, and how execution plan for it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Mehdi. I appreciate. And we are planning
Thanks.
something together at the Global AI Dialogue. I will try and announce it as we go on, but we really appreciate you making the time to be here. And also, regards to the Tech Envoy, Amandeep, he's been a supporter of the Lawyers Hub. So we appreciate that. I want to bring in
Thanks.
Makta Makta is, I don't know whether Makta, you're still here. If you could just join in on video. Yes, perfect. Makta is a really, really great individual. I have to start from that. We've done amazing stuff together, and he is, the voice and the technical voice around the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. He has, to his name, the Africa Data Policy Framework. He's been part of that, including the digital transformation strategy that Africa had in 2020. And so there's a lot of work that, has gone to, a lot of stuff that's happened in Africa, that is the name behind them, and coordinated this with member states. So Makta, could you let us know what this means for the UN Economic Commission for Africa, what you're working on, last week's, meeting, and where you see us, collaborate and opportunities in that sense. Many questions, but what's in your heart, Makta, today to talk to us about? And thanks for being
Thank
a
you
good
very
boss.
much.
I must say that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Linda, and thank you for inviting me to attend this important meeting. And also, good morning, good afternoon, where you are. Greetings to my friend and colleague, Mehdi, and safe travel. Now, I think the question is very important for the continent. We need to bring the Africa voice on this gathering. What it's why we have the WISIS 20 WISIS into we adopt WISIS in 2025 to bring this Africa voice. It is an opportunity to bring this Africa voice. It is the same thing for the Global Digital Compact. We organized several meetings to bring Africa voice. Even it is the same we did last year at the General Assembly for WISIS plus 20. And we have seen in the continent AI, it is very important. As you know, we have a youth continent, and we expect by 2050 having around our youth representing 42% of the world youth across the world youth. And also we expect to have around 230 million jobs by 2030. And this will focus on AI. The majority of this job will focus on AI. Why this AI governance is very important for African continent. And it is a reason why we organize a regional consultation last week in Addis Ababa, and we have around more than 150 participants. We have more than 20 member states, private sector, civil society, academia, youth in person, and also a lot of online across Africa. And the objective is to discuss what are the priorities for Africa in this AI governance. What we have to do in the continent, what we have to do as us, what kind of collaboration, South-South collaboration we need to have. And the discussion was focused on the 4 clusters defined by the AI governance by UN. And by the way, also this meeting was attended by the 2 co-facilitators, the ambassador of Salvador and the ambassador of Estonia, the co-facilitator, and as well as the director of UN Regional Commission Office in New York. And we have also African Union attended, Office of Digital and Emerging Technology, ODET attended, and also the several ministers also attended at this gathering, of course. And the discussion will focus on the 4 clusters, namely this AI opportunity and implication for African development priority. Cluster number 2, bridging AI and digital divide. And number 3, safe, secure, and trusted artificial intelligence. And 4, respecting protection and promoting human rights. You highlight very well in your presentation, Linda. And also we discuss on what is the role of Africa in this global governance and what are the way forward. Let me go back on the cluster. What discussion on the first cluster on this AI to bridging AI and digital device across the continent. We discuss and we need what emerging on the discussion. It is this AI solution is necessary for the continent to foster industrialization when we to improve our digital public service and to enhance social inclusion through the continent, and why we encourage member states to formulate and adopt national AI strategy that are harmonized with this continental framework and also prioritizing ethic, inclusivity, and for the rural population, women and youth, and sustainability. I think you are doing very good job with your consultation on AI policy. And also there is another issue very important for the continent. It is the support of African startups, the innovator, because with AI we can innovate and Africa need innovation. Why we need to support our young startup, our innovator and our researchers to create locally relevant AI solution that address African challenge and opportunities. This come to the concept of origin, solving African priority by African knowledge, African skills. Always we need this model also to be exchanged between African country as well as this regulatory sandbox. I think it is something everybody talk about now. The other, it is to discuss on the safe security and trustly of artificial intelligence. I think this everybody is on the same page. We need to protect our application, our citizen using this technology, and how we strengthen our cybersecurity readiness across the continent. Also to establish a national AI oversight authority with a legal mandate. Also, we need to respect the protection and human rights, the four cluster, something very important across the continent.
Right.
And also to what is more important now, when we already get a lot of input from member state. We already have this declaration. You was part of this declaration also. Thank you for your contribution. I think we will send you the latest version and you can share across your community. But we have to discuss also to agree what we understand in this global governance for Africa. Capacity building, access, technology, collaboration is important. Also, we need to strengthen African representation in multilateral institutions, technical body, and this AI governance. Why is the participation of all African category of African to the meeting in Geneva is very important. Going to the member state, private sector, academia, and also civil society and youth. We need to find a mechanism. We need to have I call upon if you can have a discussion or you call for meeting, we discuss on how we can support African participation for this discussion. That's and to find funding method for this for people who have to attend this.
Thank you.
Also, in the implementation of the AI for AI fund, AI council, I think the first speaker already talked about this. I think it is important. Also, we are now implementing the African Free Trade area, and we also adopt this digital trade protocol. We need to operationalize this IP provision of the FCTA is very important. Also, to develop this AI fund. Like it is the way forward also, it is important after the declaration, which we shall have a roadmap to be developed by all the UN body supporting Africa, UN Commission, the Regional Economic Commission. We give a deadline for 6 months to have this implementation. Also, we need to have an annual AI Africa governance scorecard shall be published. We need also to have a civil society, regional body, private sector, and affected community to participate as full stakeholder in the implementation of the AI governance outcome across Africa.
Yeah.
We need also member state to commit to publish their adoption of this AI implementation, including budget allocation is very important because generally you have AI policy and you don't have any budget, and the implementation rate is zero. Yeah, we have to go to this paper to concrete action for implementation for this AI policy. It was a summary of the discussion, and thank you once again for having this citizen, this friend, this brother, sister, to have this discussion to position Africa in the world. I think it's very important. Together, we all come for the one objective. One objective, it is the development of the continent. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Maktar Sek. We really appreciate you. And you raise very important issues around South-to-South collaboration, having a budget. We've seen that with national strategies where they say we're going to spend this, but they do not have a budget allocated for it. I think that's really an important point. We had a discussion on intellectual property in Uganda and Kenya. Really, artists and writers are complaining about IP and AI, especially in a continent where we have weak intellectual property laws. So that's really important. And multi-stakeholderism, that is the reason why we're engaging. The UN has been pushing for the idea of multi-stakeholderism, that it's not just state parties that are making decisions, but it's informed by civil society, private companies, individuals. And I dare say that now we need more startups and local voices talking about it. I don't know if anyone has a question. There was, I think there are comments around, how do we engage the workers? There were comments internally here, and Maktar has highlighted this. Bereket Tigai, hello everyone, I'm a member of the Africa Tech Workers Movement from Nairobi. So you see that representation, and thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Priya Chetty, who's the Executive Director of Research ICT Africa. RIA is an amazing organization that you should follow their work. They have discussions on AI policies as well and strategies. I hope that you can join in on the discussions. So at this point, I'm going to open the floor. If you have a question, a comment, to everyone, please raise up your hand and we'll give you the floor for you to say something. I think Maktar represents Francophone Africa. If you want to hear him speak in French as well, that would be great. Everybody else who's joining us from Francophone Africa, feel free to engage. I am told that there will be conversations for Francophone Africa. I think it's capacity building the weekend before the summit. I don't know if Dr. Mehdi is still here, no, but we'll be able to get a bit more information on that as the days progress. I am also, I don't know if we have the poster with us, but we are planning something as the Lawyers Hub in Geneva during that week. So I hope that you can join in as well. I'm the worst person to announce things. So just know it's something amazing is going to happen. So we hope that you will be there. So let's hear what the priorities look like. I think the most important question in what the UN is asking is what has been left out, and what ideally are the priorities for Africa. And Dr. Maktar has really gone to explain how are we unique, and that's the same thing that Professor Vukosi has talked about. And how are we different? Dr. Mehdi has mentioned he's Tunisian. How is Northern Africa different from the rest of sub-Saharan Africa? How are we different? And how does AI affect us in that way? So I will give the floor to anyone who raises up their hand to come in and speak. I will start with Kelvin. Ogba, you have less than 30 seconds to say what you would like to say. Kelvin?
Thank you very much. I'm Kelvin Ogba Dafiago, founder, director of the Ogba Educational Clinic here in Nigeria. I also happen to be the chief promoter of AI in Africa. So one of the things that have troubled me is about ethics of AI, and that most AI algorithms are written by Europeans and the Asians, and it's very biased towards us as Africans. What is Lawyer Hub doing to see that this biases against us Africans? Because it is very difficult for me to send somebody a friend request in California, but it is very easy for somebody in California to send me a friend request. These are many other things that it is far easier to see maybe someone like a Palestinian in France as a terrorist than a German in France. Yeah. So I want to see how do we work as African continent to protect us so that this wonderful AI, the way I always attribute it to, can be best utilized by us. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kelvin. And I agree with you. We need to engage. This time, we are not going to be naive. The reason why Lawyers Hub convenes every week is to let you know what's happening and how you can engage, because then we can engage with member states as well. Some of you, I didn't mention how multi-stakeholder we are. There are people here in government, civil society, and Lawyers Hub engages everyone. Some of you work for tech companies. It's important for us to actually say who's in the room. We had a poll lined up, but a lot of our gadgets are not working the way they usually do. So you'll forgive us. But if you can let us know what demographic you are on the chat, we will really appreciate, and we'll put that together. So I'm going to go to Susan Otieno, and then I will come to Williams. Susan, you have less than 30 seconds.
Thank you, Linda. My question is to Dr. Sek. Dr. Sek, merci pour partager l'expérience et le point avec nous. Ma question est, quelle est la base pour les gens d'Afrique? Quelle est la base? What is the standard for us when we're making laws? Because we copy and we adopt and we take from other jurisdictions. But what is the standard for us? Do we need to go back and set our own standard from which to move? Pensez quoi?
Pourquoi? Thank you so much, Setu. Thank you so much, Susan. We started the same French class at the Lawyers Hub, and she actually overtook everyone. So thank you for asking a question in French. We really appreciate that. I'll go to Williams. Williams?
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Linda, for the recognition. And I would want to also extend the same to Dr. Makta Vukusi and Dr. Medi. I think I made a comment on implementation, and Dr. Makta also raised the point on the same. I think it's a critical gap when you look at the national AI strategy. I think we are too aspirational, but we don't have a clear bridge on how to implement and also take measurements or monitor the progress. But I wanted to speak so much on the concept of multi-sector, stakeholder participation. I think many strategies emphasize inclusivity in terms of representation. You talk about all those things, but there appears to be a clear gap in ensuring meaningful participation and influence across stakeholder groups in terms of how to bring them together. They're just looking for representation, but there is no clear plan on how to bring them together to work on meaningful projects. In practice, I think engagement is often
I'll have to cut you short.
consultative.
You have to wrap it up. You have to wrap it up.
All right. I think in practice, engagement is more often more of consultation, where stakeholders provide input, but decision-making power and agenda setting and even long-term investment or involvement remain concentrated within a limited set of actors. So mine was just a comment on that one.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Williams. We really appreciate you joining us today. I don't know if anyone else wants to make a comment, just lift up your hand and we'll give you the chance. I see the comments on the challenges, on this call, and someone said, let Nigeria, let them make their comments first because electricity is going to go off. Takutua says we already have AI data centers in Africa, e.g. Kenya and South Africa. Just like you said, they're infrastructure intensive, energy and water. However, a good suggestion would be to African countries to collaborate in sharing the resources when building. We need harmonized AI laws and cross-border data sharing agreements in order to achieve this. I think those are important points to make on our uniqueness as a continent. Finally, there are some questions here that I would like to highlight. Geoffrey Ching says, in what ways will the global dialogue integrate existing African frameworks and initiatives, such as regional AI strategies and continental digital policies, into governance processes, rather than duplicating or overriding them? Then we have Chant Gra, who says, with small island developing states that form part of the Africa diaspora, such as Seychelles, be able to have a voice as AI governance can be effective in climate action initiatives and other emerging issues as well. So that's a question that's been asked. I think that's important for us to note. So I would like to just ask right now if it would be possible to let us know what the issues you think are ideally strategic for Africa and very specific to Africa that you think should go into this paper. We are going to share a document today that will pass around to your emails for you to make a comment and for you to vote, and especially what you think is a priority for the continent. And then we'll build up from that. I think the other question is on public AI and procurement. That's some of the issues that we have highlighted in our presentation, that there is need for us to look at, how do you buy, AI, and also how do you build public AI? So thanks everyone for your comments. I think I will come to the closing remarks by my panelists. We usually say that this call is 1 hour, 15 minutes. The 15 is silent, but today we are really good on time. So I want to just come back to Dr. Maktar, what your final comments would be, and Dr. Mehdi, and Vukosi, what do you see as some of the solutions if you're still here? Last comments. Vukosi, you here? Let's go to Dr. Maktar.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution as well as for the relevant questions. I think we need to have our own standard on policy, also on our own standard on ethics. When you talk about AI, the ethics part is very important. The culture are not the same. We need to develop an AI adapted to the African reality, and it's possible. Standard, we have to sit together and develop African standard. As you know, this policy, AI policy, a lot of AI policy are copy and paste. It is something we have to avoid. Yeah, we have recently what happened in one of our member states, and we need to avoid this. If we have a very good standard, approved standard on how to develop policy, how we harmonize our policy, this will be very helpful for the continent. The other thing also very important, it is an issue of capacity building. It will be prioritized for all African continent. Someone also talk about energy and also water. I think it is important because 600 million of our population doesn't have access to this electricity. But if you work together, it is this power energy pool across the several RECs initiative can sort out the access to energy in the continent, and we can build our data center without any problem of energy. But it's better we work together to develop this regional data center and the continental data center. I think at the REX level, we should have a common policy, common agreement to develop a data center for every sub-region before we go to this regional continental data center. We welcome also the initiative to have this AI factory across the 5 AI factory under the leadership of Strive from Liquid Telecom, and to have this AI factory, it will help to develop, to innovate the use of AI in the continent. I think I'm going to stop there, but the priority for Africa should be this capacity building, harmonization of our policy and rule, and what is important also to have our own ethics in one AI to respect African ethics is something very important because we are facing a lot of issues now with AI, certainly with this generative AI across the continent. Thank you so much. And Linda, thank you also for organizing this meeting. It's very important, but you have to do it for the Francophone country because I have seen a few people from Francophone. It is because the continent is one, and we need to have the voice of all members of the continent. For the Arabic country, we already did because we make together last time. We put them together with as the rest. But if you can organize another one for Francophone country, and it will be good. Francophone and Lusophone country. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you
And
so
well
much.
done for the job you are doing. Congratulations for everything you are doing for the community. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Makta. And thanks for opening up doors for us at the multilateral level. We appreciate that. And we continue to, bring other voices in the room. So we really appreciate. So we see, this conversation has been amazing. Every Monday, please join us. There will always be a conversation happening around artificial intelligence. And we want you to engage. We don't want to walk this journey alone. We want as many people always working together. I also must say that we had, more things to say. We had conversations that we want to share. And if you allow me just a minute, I would want to share with you what the Lawyers Hub is planning. This particular at the summit, we plan to host the Africa AI Governance Summit in Geneva between the 5th and the 10th of July. And we have been so privileged to get such dear people to support us in this particular process. We're still fundraising for it. We're still talking to partners, but we've gotten really people in Geneva saying, come, let's support you to do this particular work. So I want to invite everyone, especially the people who said they're already in Europe, help us to get this conversation going so that we can bring in more African voices coming in, at this place. Many of these conversations are closed, but we want to create a spot where African voices ideally feed into the dialogue. And so right now, look at your calendar. See how you're going to engage with the WSIS process, which Makta is the focal point for in Africa, as well as Africa AI governance forums. He's a really great connection to have. And we also want to urge you to, open up doors for us. Anybody that is funding this kind of work could really open up the conversation for us. But I also want to ask that today, look at the link that we're going to send. Make your submission. We think that it is really possible for us to file this submission with your voices and also to convene. You need to come to Geneva. And we also want to let you know that some of the issues that we're already talking about is, can you suggest the engagement formats? That's one of the things they're asking. Suggest a policy hackathon. We are going to have a policy hackathon there. Suggest these showcases around regulatory sandboxes. We need to have some case clinics on real AI incidences. Kenya had the WorldCoin issue. There's biometric fraud in South Africa that has been already shown how artificial intelligence actually is happening in the continent. Worker rights. We need to showcase that in Geneva, and we need to let people know that they need to come out of their bubbles, because we are all in these bubbles, the EU bubble, the African bubble, New York bubble. We need people to actually be talking about these specific issues to feed directly into the high level convening. I also want to say that there are certain layers that we need to push for. We need to have this rebalancing geographically. Our voices must be there. It does not need to be global North voices. Global South voices also matter. Capacity building has been talked about as an accelerator. We need to mention, can we already have capacity building so that all of us are at the same place at the dialogue? We'd also want to say that we need to build on already what's happening in the continent. We don't necessarily need to have new things, but we need to build up on already what's happening with it. For example, the ITU AI for Good. So I want to invite you to look for the AI for Good Summit. Go and register for it. You have to remember that you're African. If you have an African passport, you need to apply for the visas right now. And one of the things I personally mentioned last week in Geneva to the co-facilitators of this process, I mentioned that Africans need visas. The Swiss need to give us visas. If you know the ambassador in Switzerland for your country, introduce the UN process, let them know you want to apply for the visa. Do it now, because most of the places that you're going for these conversations, the embassy is already full. In summer, they don't have a lot of officers actually processing visas. So go and start that process now. Even if you don't have the money, you need to know and you need to engage. I personally, the first country I think I went to without paying for my visa was in Germany, when Germany was hosting the Internet Governance Forum. I went to the embassy, I was ready to pay 9,000 shillings, and then they told me, no, it's a UN process, so you are not going to pay for the visa. I'm not sure this is going to be the same with the Swiss, but that is what happened at that particular point. So you may just need your faith to show up in this particular process. If you're a student, if you have a house in Geneva, Please house other Africans. Reach out to us and say, this is what I have. This is what I can be able to do. Geneva is the most expensive country on earth. Having lived in New York, I can say that. And I want to urge anyone in Geneva who has space, host. Let's be part of this particular process. Sorry, my phone is ringing. Please write to the United Nations, write to us. Let's engage, and I really appreciate you for showing up for this conversation today, because you have ideally shown us that Lawyers Hub is continuing to have an impact. Everything we talk about right here does not stay here. It goes to the next level. We take it to the global convenings, we take it to governments, and so we appreciate you joining us. I'd also want to say we're still convening the Africa Law and Tech Festival in August. 9th and 10th of August. Join us in Nairobi. We will talk about all these particular conversations. Nairobi is visa-free, so you don't have to worry about that. Just show up. If you need hosting, talk to me. I have 150 cousins. They can host you somewhere in the city. And so having said all those things, we'll end this call today. Thank you for all your love. Tag us on Instagram, tag us on LinkedIn, find Lawyers Hub Africa. If you're wondering what we're discussing next week, you will see it on our socials, you will see it on our website. Post your LinkedIn on the chat, connect with someone. Let's build Africa. Let's not complain about the West when you're doing nothing to do it. Let's build Africa and open up doors for each other. That is how we get into these global spaces. So we're going to end the call in a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes, but we urge you to just read the chat. Make sure that you can see what's going on. Connect with somebody, email them, let them know what you're working on. But from us at the Lawyers Hub, we sincerely appreciate your support. And we hope that we continue with this specific work. And we're on fundraising mode. If you're a donor in the room, please support our work and support the work of those that work with us. If you're a regulator and you've been asked to go to Geneva, don't go shopping. Please, let us talk, let us engage, let us be part of the draft. Just don't go shopping and saying, oh, me, I was sent to Geneva, but I want to see the city. See the city after you have engaged, because we are going to find you and we're going to make sure that you voice our sentiments and the sentiments of the continent. So from us to you, we're grateful. Have a lovely one. Today we're 5 minutes early, so please, we're grateful for everyone who's done the work to get this happen. Ken and Louisa and the Lawyers Hub team, thank you for making this conversation a reality today. And I hope all of you have an incredible day. Have a good one. Bye.